This video will show you how to assemble the Sun Protection Zone 2-pallet display for Sam's Club stores. Part 1 of 3, Assembling the Adult Pallet. First, with the 2 pallets positioned where you would like the display to be, remove the shrink wrap from both pallets. Be careful not to cut or damage the corrugated caps or shrouds. Note each pallet is labeled on the outside as either adult merchandise or children's merchandise. We will begin with the adult pallet. Carefully remove the cap, fold it and set it aside. Carefully remove the shroud and set it aside. You will need these pieces to repack the display later. Now find the ID tag attached to the display frame and note the unique name on it. You will need it later. First, remove the header card from atop the pallet and set it aside. Next, find the 2 pieces that make up the aisle-facing extender. There is 1 piece in each of the top hat bins. Put the 2 pieces together and secure them by pressing the locking button on the male piece so they snap into place. Now insert the 2 legs of the extender into the top of one of the 2 rectangular frames cable tied to either 48-inch side of the pallet. Disconnect this entire assembly from the display base by cutting the cable ties and lifting it off. Then lift it into position as shown, with the upper brackets fitting over the top bar of the base and the lower brackets resting on the grid to securely hold it in place. Next, remove the rectangular frame from the other 48-inch side of the display by cutting the cable tie. Lift it off and into position just as you did the first one, being sure the brackets are securely placed over the top bar and grid of the base frame. Note this rectangular frame does not have an aisle-facing extender. Clothing is packed in the 3 hat bins on both 40-inch sides of the pallet. The center of the pallet contains additional pieces required to assemble the display, plus bags of hats to fill the 2 top hat bins once the clothing has been removed. Remove the hat bags from the center of the pallet. Remove the 3 curved bars and the 2 straight stabilizing bars from the center of the pallet. Use the now empty center compartment to store the folded cap and shroud pieces for later use when taking down the display. Next, add the first curved merchandise bar to the 48-inch side of the display with the extender you installed earlier on the top. Be sure to place it on the correct bar, as shown here, to allow for proper spacing of the clothing. The top of the grid prohibits the use of bolts and nuts on this 1 bar, so it must be secured using cable ties. Now add the 2 remaining curved merchandise bars to the opposite 48-inch side of the display. Be certain to attach them to the correct horizontal frame bars as shown here. This is important to provide proper spacing for the clothing. These 2 bars must be secured using the bolts and wing nuts provided, with the wing nuts on the inside of the display. Finally, add the 2 straight stabilizer bars to the top of the display, sliding them as far to the outside as you can, as shown here. Now you're ready to distribute the merchandise. Remove all the clothing from the 6 hat bins and hang it temporarily on any available bar, awaiting final placement. Fill the top hat bins on both sides with the hats you removed earlier from the center of the pallet. Match them to the hats already present on each side. Adult boonie hats on one side, adult floppies on the other. Now arrange the remaining clothing. 2 blue zip rash guards fit on the aisle-facing extender, with leggings on the curved bar below. Place men's unisex rash guards on the opposite side, with short sleeves on top, long sleeves below. Arrange all merchandise by color or pattern, then by size within each grouping. Finally, add the UV sleeves above the hat bins with size small medium on one side and size medium large on the other. The display header is very awkward to install without help. Leave the header card aside until the children's pallet is assembled. At that point, you will need to enlist a helper to set both header cards in place. This ends part 1. Now please continue to part 2, assembling the children's display.